Hello everyone, I'm Donna Bush with your CID-TV News Brief this Thursday. As government releases new COVID-19 regulations, a statement from His Excellency Governor Martin Roper on Thursday afternoon regarding changes to the Cayman Islands rating on the list for inbound travel to England.
Hello, I'm absolutely delighted to announce that we've been added to the UK's green travel list, which means that for people going to England from Cayman, they will no longer need to quarantine on arrival. This has been a long sort of battle to get on the green list. We've been feeding in lots of information to make the case for Cayman to be green, which is absolutely right and is very welcome recognition of the outstanding performance by the Cayman Islands in responding to this global pandemic. So I'm very grateful to the HSA, to the Ministry of Health, to the great team in my own office for feeding in all the information to London to enable them to put us on the green list. The fact that we're able to do genome sequencing now on island is also a wonderful development and an achievement, and that has really helped us to get on the green list. So grateful also to the Premier who wrote to ministers at my request. So I just absolutely delighted, and I even wore my green tie in anticipation to celebrate this day today. Thank you.
Meantime, a 5-day quarantine period for fully vaccinated incoming travelers who meet specific criteria is a key change in the new COVID-19 regulations, which came into effect on Wednesday. Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Lee explains.
It's really good news that we've been able to move to the next step of the reopening process, and you'll know that it is a staged process, and each stage we want to get there, assess how it's been, and then move on to the next if it's been successful. So that's why we're doing it in a measured way, so we can look at what's happening locally, but also, very importantly, monitor the variants of concern that, of course, we're all worried about. For this particular stage, the quarantine for people who've been vaccinated by one of the 4 approved vaccines, which are Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Janssen, is 10 days, except for those who we can securely verify. And by securely verify, we mean some form of technology, and there are definitions of this that are available, some form of technology where we can go back and check that the information that we're being presented is correct and it hasn't been tampered with. We're obviously very concerned of reports from Interpol that there are a lot of forgeries for vaccination certificates going around, which is why we're putting such an emphasis on this secure verification. We're really ahead of the curve for vaccinations, so because of that, we also need to be ahead of the curve. We are being required to be ahead of the curve in terms of securely verifying. So we're working frantically behind the scenes to make sure we have all the processes in place and asking for assistance from the UK to see if they can assist. So only those people who we can securely verify the vaccination would attract the 5-day, the shorter vaccination period. At the moment, we thought it would only be those people vaccinated from the Health Services Authority initially, but now we realize we can add in the National Health Service, the NHS app, because that app, when you log in with your face or your password, CBC can ask you to do that in front of them so they can see that you are securely logging in, and then it can demonstrate that you've been vaccinated. The NHS are also producing some special certificates with a lot of security features like coloured ink, thermochromic ink, which changes with temperature, things which would make it difficult to photocopy, backgrounds which are very difficult to reproduce. So we're also working to find out exactly what those features are and to have CBC officers trained so that they recognise that. At the moment, those are the only 2 different sources where we are assured that we can securely verify. So it's not a question of Cayman and the UK, it's a question of where we can do it from. We're also working hard on apps to be able to read the secure verification, and when that comes in, it's very likely we're going to be able to extend that, for example, to all of the EU, the European certificates for vaccination evidence or PCR testing. We're also working with CERNA, the Health Information System at the Health Services Authority, so that we can demonstrate when we travel to the world in a similar way on your app or on a piece of paper, a QR code that gives people assurance that we've been vaccinated, and that similarly, when you go abroad, they will be able to do a security lookup to check that that certificate that we're presenting is correct, or that app. That's very similar to what they're doing in the States, because obviously Cerner is an American company. So we are expecting that in the States they're going to have a similar system for everybody that's been vaccinated there. It's just, it might take a few weeks, but I think it's going to be a short period of time rather than a longer period of time before they can also demonstrate secure evidence of vaccination. With us moving down the path towards opening, now is the time that we need to begin to be careful with health as we begin to have a slightly increased risk. It's a very, very small risk, but I would now ask that people who may be vulnerable, or the elderly, or those who are unvaccinated, when they go into indoor public spaces, please consider wearing masks, obviously distance, watch your hand hygiene, in order to protect yourself from the threat of any possible infection. That will also stand you in good stead for other sorts of infections. We've seen that there have been relatively few, or hardly, I certainly haven't had one, and I'm not immune, hardly any respiratory infections, but these are all going to start to creep back as travel begins to become much more frequent. So please do take care of yourselves, in particular with regards to the coronavirus, but also any other infections.
The new regulations were announced by government at the most recent press briefing. Premier the Honourable Wayne Panton says he wants to assure the public that continued protection of our islands remains paramount. Another major change: as of July the 1st, government will no longer cover the cost of quarantine in government-sponsored quarantine facilities following non-essential travel for returning Caymanians and residents. Proof that travel was for essential purposes will be required in order to have those costs waived. Meantime, officials are asking residents to be reminded that essential travel is only for medical purposes or students returning to school. Well, a two-day symposium on the work of Caymanian author J.A. Roy Bodden is taking place at the Hartwell Theatre this week. The Cayman National Cultural Foundation, in collaboration with the Committee for the Promotion of Research and Cayman Scholarships, are hosting the symposium to discuss and celebrate the work of Mr. Bodden, a prominent Caymanian, historian, educator, author, and former member of government. Some areas to be covered includes the founding of the Caymanian Society, Caymanian literature, the Cayman Islands education system, and continuing evolution of the Caymanian economy. The symposium is free to the public and can also be watched live and on demand on the CIG Television YouTube channel. And you can find the details on the symposium online at the CNCF's website, artscayman.org. Turning now to our forecast, which calls for a high temperature of 88 degrees, a low of 77. We can expect partly cloudy skies, as we've seen all afternoon, with a 40% chance of morning showers and afternoon showers and possible thunder and winds from the east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots, while seas are slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. The synopsis: isolated showers with moderate winds and seas are expected over the Cayman area for the next 24 hours as an upper-level system over the Cayman area interacts with a tropical wave over the Northwest Caribbean. Radar images show isolated showers around the Cayman area that are moving towards the southwest. A reminder that you can find the latest on local weather conditions online at weather.gov.ky. And that's it for today's news brief here on CIG Television. I'm Donna Bush, thanking you for joining us and inviting you back here again tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye for now. Did you know your mailing address details on your land register must be up to date in order to receive notices on new development which may impact you? Visit Lands and Survey Department to check your mailing address is correct.